Woe to the nations that rise up against my kindred. The Lord Almighty will take vengeance of them in the day of judgment, and putting fire and worms in their flesh, and they shall feel them and weep forever. The following program is rated R. In the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arphaxad, which reigned over Medes and Ecbatane. Ecbatane was a great city, with great walls of stone and towers tall and wide. In those days King Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Arphaxad in the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ragu. And there came unto him all they that dwelt in the hill country, and all that dwelt by Euphrates, and Tigris, and Hydaspes, and the plain of Arioch, the king of Elamites. And very many nations of the sons of Chalad assembled themselves to the battle. Then Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, sent unto all that dwelt in Persia, from Persia westward, among all those nations that were in Carmel, unto the higher places of Galilee, and to all that were in Samaria, and all the cities thereof, from beyond Jordan to Jerusalem, from the river of Egypt to Ramses, until ye come beyond Memphis, and to all the inhabitants of Egypt, until you get to the borders of Ethiopia. But all the inhabitants of the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians. Neither went they with him to the battle, for they were not afraid of him. Yea, he was before them as one man, and they sent away his ambassadors from them without effect, and was disgraced. Therefore Nebuchadnezzar was very angry with all this country, and sware by his throne and kingdom, that he would surely be avenged upon all those coasts of Sicily and Damascus and Syria, and he would slay with the sword all the inhabitants of the land of Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all Judea, and all that were in Egypt, till he come to the borders of the two seas. Then King Nebuchadnezzar marched in battle array with his power against King Arphaxad in the 17th year, and he prevailed in his battle, for he overthrew all the power of Arphaxad, and all his horsemen, and all his chariots, and he became lord of his cities, and came unto Ecbatane, and took the towers, and spoiled the streets thereof, and turned the beauty thereof into shame. He also took Arphaxad in the mountains of Ragu, and smote him through with his darts, and destroyed him utterly that day. So he returned afterward to Nineveh, both he and all his company of sundry nations, being a very great multitude of men of war. And there he took ease, and banqueted, both he and his army, 120 days. And in the 18th year, the 22nd day of the first month, there was talk in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, that he should, as he said, avenge himself on all the earth. So he called unto him all his officers and all his nobles, and communicated with them his secret counsel, and concluded the afflicting of the whole earth out of his own mouth. Then they decreed to destroy all flesh that did not obey the commandment of his mouth. And when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next unto him, and said unto him, Thus saith the great King, the Lord of the whole earth, Behold, thou shalt go forth from my presence, and take with thee men that trust in their own strength, of footmen 120,000, and the number of horses with their riders 12,000. And thou shalt go against all the west country, because they disobeyed my commandment. And thou shalt declare unto that they prepare for me earth and water. For I will go forth in my wrath against them, and will cover the face of the earth with the feet of mine army, and I will give them for a spoil unto them, so that their slain shall fill their valleys and brooks, and the rivers shall be filled with their dead bodies, till it overflow. I will lead them captives to the utmost parts of all the earth. Thou therefore shalt go forth, and take beforehand for me all their coasts. And if they will yield themselves unto thee, thou shalt reserve them for me till the day of their punishment. But concerning them that rebel, let not thine eye spare them, but put them to the slaughter, and spoil them wheresoever thou goest. For as I live, by the power of my kingdom, whatsoever I have spoken, that will I do by my hand. And take thou heed that thou transgress none of the commandments of thy Lord, but accomplish them fully, as I have commanded thee, and defer not to do them. Then Holofernes went forth from his presence of his Lord, and called all the governors and captains and the officers of the army of Assur. And he mustered the chosen men for the battle, as his Lord had commanded him, unto 120,000, and 12,000 archers on horseback. And he ranged them, as a great army is ordered for the war. Then he went forth in all his power to go before King Nebuchadnezzar in the voyage, and to cover all the face of the earth westward, with their chariots and horsemen and their chosen footmen. A great number also of sundry countries came with them like locusts, and like the sand of the earth, for the multitude was without number. And they went forth of Nineveh 3 days' journey toward the plain of Bethulia, and pitched from Bethulia near the mountain which is at the left hand of the upper Siscia. Then he took all his army, his footmen, and his horsemen, and chariots, and went forth thence into the hill country, and destroyed Phud and Lud, and spoiled all the children of Races and the children of Israel, which were toward the wilderness at the south of the land of Chelleans. Then he went over Euphrates, and went through Mesopotamia, and destroyed all the high cities that were upon the river Arbanai, till ye come to the sea. And he took the borders of Siscia, and killed all that resisted him, and came to the borders of Japheth, which were toward the south, over against Arabia. He compassed all the children of Midian, and burned up their tabernacles, and spoiled their sheepcotes. Then he went down into the plain of Damascus in the time of the wheat harvest, and burnt all their fields, and destroyed their flocks and herds. Also he spoiled their cities, and utterly wasted their countries, and smote all their young men with the edge of the sword. Therefore the fear and dread of him fell upon all the inhabitants of the seacoast, which were in Sidon and Tyrus, and them that dwelt in Shur and Oceana, and all that dwelt in Jimnah, and they that dwelt in Astus and Askelon, feared him greatly. So they sent ambassadors unto him to treat of peace, saying, Behold, we the servants of Nebuchadnezzar the great king lie before thee. Use us as shall be good in thy sight. Behold, our houses and all our places, and all our fields of wheat, and flocks, and herds, and all the lodges of our tents lie before thy face. Use them as it pleaseth thee. Behold, even our cities, and the inhabitants thereof, are thy servants. Come and deal with them as seemeth good unto thee. So the men came to Holofernes, and declared unto him after this manner. Yet did he cast down the frontiers, and cut down their groves, for he had decreed to destroy all the gods of the land, that all nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar only, that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as God. Also he came over against Esdraelon, near unto Judea, over against the great strait of Judea, and he pitched between Geba and Cyclopolis, and there he tarried a whole month, that he might gather together all the carriages of his army. Now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples, and brought them to naught. Therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him, and were troubled for Jerusalem, for the temple of the Lord their Yah. For they were newly returned from their captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together, and the vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the profanation. Therefore they sent into all the coasts of Samaria, and the villages of Bethron and Bethman, and Jericho, and Choba, and Esora, and to the valley of Salem, and possessed themselves beforehand, and all the tops of the high mountains, and fortified the villages that were in them, and laid up victuals for the provision of war, for their fields were of late reaped. Also Joachim the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia and Bethlehem, which is over against Esdraelon, toward the open country near Dothan, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an entrance into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passages was straight, for 2 men at the most. And the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had commanded them, with the ancients of all the people of Israel, which dwelt in Jerusalem. Then every man of Israel cried to Yah with great vehemency, and with great did they humble their soul, both they and their wives and their children and their cattle and every stranger and hireling, and their servants bought with money, put sackcloth upon their loins. Thus every man and woman, and the little children, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, fell before the temple, and cast ashes upon their heads, and spread out their sackcloth before the face of the Lord. Also they put sackcloth about the altar, and cried to the Yah of Israel all with one consent earnestly, that he would not give their children for a prey, and their wives for a spoil, and the cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the sanctuary to profanation and reproach, for all the nations to rejoice at. So Yah heard their prayers, and looked upon their affliction, for the people fasted many days in all Judea and Jerusalem before the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty. And Joachim the high priest, and all the priests that stood before the Lord, and they which ministered unto the Lord, had their loins girt with sackcloth, and offered the daily burnt offerings with the vows and free gifts of the people, and had ashes on their mitres, and cried unto the Lord with all their power, that he would look upon all the house of Israel graciously. Then was it declared to Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Assur, that the children of Israel had prepared for war, and had shut up the passages of the hill country, and had fortified all the tops of the high hills, and had laid impediments in the champaign countries. Wherewith he was very angry, and caught all the princes of Moab, and the captains of Ammon, and all the governors of the seacoast, and said unto them, Tell me now, ye sons of Canaan, who this people is that dwelleth in the hill country, and what are the cities that they inhabit, and what is the multitude of their army, and wherein is their power and strength, and what king is set over them, or captain of their army, and why have they determined not to come and meet me more than all the inhabitants of the west? Then said Achior, the captain of the sons of Ammon, Let my lord now hear a word from the mouth of thy servant, and I will declare unto thee the truth concerning this people, which dwelleth near thee, and inhabiteth the hill countries, and there shall no lie come out of the mouth of thy servant. This people are descended of the Chaldeans, and they sojourned heretofore in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea. For they left the way of their ancestors, and worshipped the Yah of heaven, the Yah whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia, and sojourned there many days. Then their Yah commanded them to depart from the place where they sojourned, and to go into the land of Canaan, where they dwelt, and were increased with gold and silver, and with very much cattle. But when a famine covered all land of Canaan, they went down into Egypt, and sojourned there, while they were nourished, and became there a great multitude, so that one could not number their nation. Therefore the king of Egypt rose up against them, and dwelt subtilly with them, and brought them low with laboring in brick, and made them slaves. Then they cried unto their Yah, and he smote all the land of Egypt with incurable plagues, so that the Egyptians cast them out of their sight. And Yah dried the Red Sea before them, and brought them to Mount Sinai and Kadesh Barn, and cast forth all that dwelt in the wilderness. So they dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and they destroyed by their strength all them of Esbon, and passing over Jordan they possessed all the hill country. And they cast forth before them the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Jebusite, and the Sychemite, and all Girgashites, and they dwelt in the country many days. And while they sinned not before their Yah, they prospered, because Yah that hateth iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs, and the temple of their Yah was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. But now are they returned to their Yah, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now therefore, my lord and governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their Yah, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their Yah be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. And when Achior had finished these sayings, all the people standing round about the tent murmured, and the chief men of Holofernes, and all that dwelt by the seaside and in Moab, spake that he should kill him. For they say, We will not be afraid of the face of the children of Israel. For lo, it is a people that have no strength nor power for a strong battle. Now therefore, Lord Holofernes, we will go up, and they shall be a prey to be devoured of all thine army. And when the tumult of men that were about the council was ceased, Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Assur, said unto Achior and all the Moabites before all the company of the other nations, And who art thou, Achior, and the hirelings of Ephraim, that thou hast prophesied against us as today, and hast said, that we should not make war with the people of Israel, because their God will defend them? And who is God but Nebuchadnezzar? He will send his power, and will destroy them from the face of the earth, and their God shall not deliver them, but we his servants will destroy them as one man. For they are not able to sustain the power of our horses. For with them we will tread them under foot, and their mountains shall be drunken with their blood, and their fields shall be filled with their dead bodies, and their footsteps shall not be able to stand before us, for they shall utterly perish, saith King Nebuchadnezzar, Lord of all the earth. For he said, None of my words shall be in vain. And thou, Achior, and hireling of Ammon, which hast spoken these words in the day of thine iniquity, shalt see my face no more from this day, until I take vengeance of this nation that came out of Egypt. And then shall the sword of my army and the multitude of them that serve me pass through thy sides, and thou shalt fall among their slain when I return. Then Holofernes commanded his servants that waited in his tent to take Achior and bring him to Bethulia, and deliver him into the hands of the children of Israel. So his servants took him, and brought him out of the camp into the plain. And they went from the midst of the plain into the hill country, and came unto the fountains that were under Bethulia. And when the men of the city saw them, they took up their weapons, and went out of the city to the top of the hill. And every man that used a sling kept them from coming up by casting of the stones against them. Nevertheless, having gotten privily under the hill, they bound Achior, and cast him down, and left him at the foot of the hill, and returned to their lord. But the Israelites descended from their city, and came unto him, and loosed him, and brought him to Bethulia, and presented him to the governors of the city, which were in those days Ozias the son of Micha, of the tribe of Simeon, and Chabrias the son of Gothniel, and Charmis the son of Machel. And they called together all the ancients of the city, and all their youth ran together, and their women, to the assembly, and they set Achior in the midst of all the people. Then Ozias asked him of that which was done. And he answered and declared unto them the words of the counsel of Holofernes, and all the words that he had spoken in the midst of the princes of Achior, and whatsoever Holofernes had spoken proudly against the house of Israel. Then the people fell down and worshipped Yah, and cried unto Yah, saying, O Lord Yah of heaven, behold their pride, and pity the low estate of our nation, and look upon the face of those that are sanctified unto thee this day. Then they comforted Achior, and praised him greatly. And Ozias took him out of the assembly unto his house, and made a feast to the elders, and they called upon the Yah of Israel all that night for help. The next day Holofernes commanded all his army and all his people which were come to take his part, that they should remove their camp against Bethulia, to take aforehand the ascents of the hill country, and to make war against the children of Israel. Now the children of Israel, when they saw the multitude of them, were greatly troubled, and said every one to his neighbor, Now will these men look up the face of the earth, for neither the high mountains, nor the valleys, nor the hills are able to bear their weight. Then every man took up his weapons of war, and when they had kindled fires upon the towers, they remained and watched all that night. But in the second day Holofernes brought forth all his horsemen in the sight of the children of Israel which were in Bethulia, and viewed the passages up to the city, and came to the fountains of their waters, and took them, and set garrisons of men of war over them, and he himself removed toward his people. Then came unto him all the chief of the children of Esau, and all the governors of the people of Moab, and the captains of the sea coast, and said, Let our Lord now hear a word, that there be not an overthrow in thine army. For this people of the children of Israel do not trust in their spears, but in the height of the mountains wherein they dwell, because it is not easy to come up to the top of their mountains. Now therefore, my Lord, fight not against them in battle array, and there shall not as one man of thy people perish. Remain in thy camp, and keep all the men of thine army, and let thy servants get into their hands the fountain of water, which issueth forth of the foot of the mountain. For all the inhabitants of Bethulia have their water thence. So shall thirst kill them, and they shall give up their city. And we and our people shall go up to the top of the mountains that are near, and will camp upon them to watch that none go out of the city. So they and their wives and their children shall be consumed with fire, and before the sword come against them, they shall be overthrown in the streets where they dwell. Thus shalt thou render them an evil reward, because they rebelled, and met not thy person peaceably. And these words pleased Holofernes and all his servants, and he appointed to do as they had spoken. So the camp of the children of Ammon departed, and with them 5,000 of the Assyrians. And they pitched in the valley, and took the waters and the fountains of the waters of the children of Israel. Then the children of Israel cried unto the Lord their Yah, because their heart failed, for all their enemies had come past them round about, and there was no way to escape out from among them. Thus all the company of Assur remained about them, both their footmen, chariots, and horsemen, 34 days, so that all their vessels of water failed all the inhabitants of Bethulia. And the cisterns were emptied, and they had not water to drink their fill for 1 day, for they gave them drink by measure. Therefore their young children were out of heart, and their women and young men fainted for thirst, and fell down in the streets of the city, and by the passages of the gates, and there was no longer any strength in them. Then all the people assembled to Ozias, and to the chief of the city, both young men and women and children, and cried with a loud voice, and said before all the elders, Yah be judge between us and you, for ye have done us great injury, in that ye have not required peace of the children of Assur. For now we have no helper, but Yah hath sold us into their hands, that we should be thrown down before them with thirst and great destruction. Now therefore call them unto you, and deliver the whole city for a spoil to the people of Holofernes, and to all his army. For it is better for us to be made a spoil unto them, than to die of thirst. For we will be his servants, that our souls may live, and not see the death of our infants before our eyes, nor our wives, nor our children to die. we take to witness against you the heaven and the earth, and our Yah and the Lord of our fathers, which punisheth us according to our sins and the sins of our fathers, that he do not according as we have said this day. Then there was great weeping with one consent in the midst of the assembly, and they cried unto the Lord Yah with a loud voice. Then said Ozias to them, Brethren, be of good courage. Let us yet endure 5 days, in the which space the Lord our Yah may turn his mercy toward us, for he will not forsake us utterly. And if these days pass, and there come no help unto us, I will do according to your word. And he dispersed the people, every one to their own charge, and they went unto the walls and the towers of their city, and sent the women and children into their houses, and they were very low brought in the city. Now at that time Judith heard thereof, which was the daughter of Merari, the son of Ox, the son of Joseph, the son of Ozel, the son of Elicia, the son of Nias, the son of Gideon, the son of Raphim, the son of Achitho, the son of Elu, the son of Elab, the son of Nathaniel, the son of Samuel, the son of Salsadal, the son of Israel, and Manasseh her husband, of the tribe and of kindred, who died in the barley harvest. For as he stood overseeing them that bound sheaves in the field, the heat came upon his head, and he fell on his bed, and died in the city of Bethulia. And they buried him with his fathers in the field between Dothan and Balamo. So Judith was a widow in her house 3 years and 4 months. She made her a tent upon the top of her house, and put sackcloth on upon her loins, and wore her widow's apparel. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the eves of the Sabbaths, and the eves of the new moons, and the new moons, and the feasts and solemn days of the house of Israel. She was also of a goodly countenance, and very beautiful to behold. And her husband Manasseh had left her gold and silver, and men servants and maid servants, and cattle and lands, and she remained upon them. And there was none that gave her an ill word, as she feared Yah greatly. Now when she heard the evil words of the people against the governor, that they fainted for a lack of water, for Judith had heard all the words that Ozias had spoken unto them, and that he had sworn to deliver the city into the hands of the Assyrians after 5 days. Then she sent her waiting woman, that had the government of all things, that she said, to call Ozias and Charbis and Charmis, the ancients of the city. And they came unto her, and said unto them, Hear me now, O ye governors of the inhabitants of Bethulia. For your words that ye have spoken before the people this day are not right, touching this oath which ye made and pronounced between Yah and you, and have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, unless within these days the Lord turn to help you. Now who are ye that have tempted Yah this day, and stand instead of Yah among the children of men? And now try the Lord Almighty, but ye shall never know anything. For ye cannot find the depth of the heart of men, neither can ye perceive the things that he thinketh. Then how can ye search out Yah, that he made all these things, and know his mind, or comprehend his purpose? Nay, my brethren, provoke not the Lord our Yah to anger. For if he will not help us within these 5 days, he hath power to defend us when he will, even every day, or to destroy us before our enemies. Do not bind the counsels of the Lord our Yah, for Yah is not as man, that he may be threatened, neither is he as the Son of Man, that he should be wavering. Therefore let us wait for salvation of him, and call upon him to help us, and he will hear our voice, if it please him. For there arose none in our age, neither is there any now in these days, neither tribe, nor family, nor people, nor city among us, which worship gods made with hands, as hath been aforetime. For which cause our fathers were given to the sword, and for a spoil, and had a great fall before our enemies. But we know none other God. Therefore we trust that he will not despise us, nor any of our nation. For if we be taken so, all Judea shall lie waste, and our sanctuary shall be spoiled, and he will require the profanation thereof at our mouth, and the slaughter of our brethren, and the captivity of the country, and the desolation of our inheritance, will he turn upon our heads among the Gentiles, wheresoever we shall be in bondage. And when we shall be of offense and a reproach to all them that possess us, for our servitude shall not be directed to favor, but the Lord our Yah shall turn it to dishonor. Now therefore, O brethren, let us shew an example to our brethren, because their hearts depend upon us, and the sanctuary, and the house, and the altar rest upon us. Moreover, let us give thanks to the Lord our Yah, which trieth us, even as he did our fathers. Remember what things he did to Abraham, and how he tried Isaac, and what happened to Jacob in Mesopotamia of Syria, when he kept the sheep of Laban his mother's brother. For he hath not tried us in the fire as he did them, for the examination of their hearts, neither hath he taken vengeance on us, but the Lord doth scourge them that come near unto him, to admonish them. Then said Ozias to her, all that thou hast thou spoken with a good heart, and there is none that may gainsay thy words. For this is not the first day wherein thy wisdom is manifested, but from the beginning of thy days all the people have known thy understanding, because the disposition of thine heart is good. But the people were very thirsty, and compelled us to do unto them as we have spoken, and to bring an oath upon ourselves, which we will not break. Therefore now pray thou for us, because thou art a godly woman, and the Lord will send us rain to fill our cisterns, and we shall not faint no more. Then said Judith unto him, hear me, and I will do a thing, which shall go throughout all generations to the children of our nation. Ye shall stand this night in the gate, and I will go forth with my waiting woman. And within the days that ye have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, the Lord will visit Israel by mine hand. But inquire not ye of mine act, for I will not declare it unto you, till the things be finished that I do. Then said Ozias and the princes unto her, go in peace, and the Lord Yah be before thee, to take vengeance on our enemies. So they returned from the tent, and went to their wards. Judith fell upon her face, and put ashes upon her head, and uncovered the sackcloth wherewith she was clothed. And about the time that the incense of that evening was offered in Jerusalem, in the house of the Lord, Judith cried with a loud voice, and said, O Lord Yah of my father Simeon, to whom thou gavest a sword to take vengeance of the strangers who loosened the girdle of a maid to defile her, and discovered the thigh of her shame, and polluted her virginity to her reproach. For thou saidst, it shall not be so, and yet they did so. Wherefore thou gavest their rulers to be slain, so that they dyed their bed in blood, being deceived, and smotest the servants with their lords, and the lords upon their thrones, and hast given their wives for a prey, and their daughters to be captives, and all their spoils to be divided among thy dear children, which were moved with the zeal, and abhorred the pollution of their blood, and called upon thee for aid. O Yah, O my Yah, hear me also, a widow. For thou hast wrought not only those things, but also the things which fell out before, and which ensued after. Thou hast thought upon the things which are now, and which are to come. Yea, what things thou didst determine were ready at hand, and said, Lo, we are here, for all thy ways are prepared, and thy judgments are in thy foreknowledge. For behold, the Assyrians are multiplied in their power, they are exalted with horse and man. They glory in their strength of their footmen. They trust in shield, and spear, and bow, and sling, and know not that thou art the Lord, that breakest the battles. The Lord is thy name. Throw down their strength in thy power, and bring down their force in thy wrath. For they have purposed to defile thy sanctuary, and to pollute the tabernacle where thy glorious name resteth, and to cast down with the sword the horn of thy altar. Behold their pride, and send thy wrath upon their heads. Give into my hand, which am a widow, the power that I have conceived. Smite by the deceit of my lips the servant with the prince, and the prince with the servant. break down their stateliness by the hand of a woman. For thy power standeth not in the multitude, nor thy might in strong men. For thou art a Yah of the afflicted, and helper of the oppressed, and upholder of the weak, a protector of the forlorn, a saviour of them that are without hope. I pray thee, O Yah of my father, the Yah of my inheritance of Israel, Lord of the heavens and earth, Creator of the waters, King of every creature, hear thou my prayer, and make my speech and deceit to be their wound and stripe, who have purposed cruel things against thy covenant and thy hallowed house, and against the top of Zion, and against the house of the possession of thy children, and make every nation and tribe to acknowledge that thou art the Yah of all power and might, and that there is none other that protecteth the people of Israel but thou. Now after that she had ceased to cry unto the Yah of Israel, and had made an end of all these words, she rose where she had fallen down, and called her maid, and went down into the house in which she abode in Sabbath days, and in her feast days, and pulled off the sackcloth which she had on, and put off the garments of her widowhood, and washed her body all over with water, and anointed herself with precious ointments, and braided the hair of her head, and put on a tire upon it, and put on her garments of gladness, wherewith she was clad during the life of her husband Manasseh. And she took sandals upon her feet, and put about her bracelets, and her chains, and her rings, and her earrings, and all her ornaments, and decked herself bravely to allure the eyes of all men that should see her. Then she gave her maid a bottle of wine, and a cruse of oil, and filled a bag with parched corn, and lumps of figs with fine bread. So she folded all these things together, and laid them upon her. Thus they went forth to the gate, to the city of Bethulia, and found standing there Ozias and the ancients of the city, Chabrish and Charmis. And when they saw her, that her countenance was altered, and her apparel was changed, they wondered at her beauty very greatly, and said unto her, the Yah of our fathers give thee favor, and accomplish thy enterprises to the glory of the children of Israel, and to the exaltation of Jerusalem. Then they worshipped Yah. And she said unto them, command the gates of the city to be opened unto me, that I may go forth to accomplish the things whereof ye have spoken with me. So they commanded the young men to open unto her as she had spoken. And when they had done so, Judith went out, she and her handmaid with her. And the men of the city looked after her until she was gone down the mountain, until she passed the valley, and could see her no more. Thus they went straight forth in the valley, and the first watch of the Assyrians met her, and took her, and asked her, of what people art thou? And whence comest thou? And whither goest thou? And she said, I am a woman of the Hebrews, and am fled from them, for they shall be given you to be consumed. And I am coming before Holofernes, the chief captain of your army, to declare words of truth, and I will shew him a way whereby he shall go, and win all the hill country, without losing the body or life of any one of his men. Now when the men heard her words, and beheld her countenance, they wondered greatly at her beauty, and said unto her, Thou hast saved thy life, and that thou hast hasted to come down to the presence of our Lord. Now therefore come to his tent, and some of us shall conduct thee, until they have delivered thee to his hands. And when thou standest before him, be not afraid in thine heart, but shew unto him according to thy word, and he will entreat thee well. Then they chose out of them 100 men to accompany her, and her maid, and they brought her to the tent of Holofernes. Then was there a concourse throughout all the camp, for her coming was noised among the tents, and they came about her, as she stood without the tent of Holofernes, till they told him of her. And they wondered at her beauty, and admired the children of Israel because of her. And every one said to his neighbor, who would despise this people, to have among them such women? Surely it is not good that one man of them be left, who being let go might deceive the whole earth. And they that lay near Holofernes went out, and all his servants, and they brought her into the tent. Now Holofernes rested upon his bed up under a canopy, which was woven with purple and gold and emeralds and precious stones. So they shewed her him, and he came out before his tent with silver lamps going before him. And when Judith was come before him and his servants, they all marveled at the beauty of her countenance. And she fell down upon her face and did reverence unto him, and his servants took her up. Then said Holofernes unto her, Woman, be of good comfort, fear not in thy heart, for I never heard any that was willing to serve Nebuchadnezzar, the king of all the earth. Now therefore, if thy people that dwell in the mountains had not set light by me, I would not have lifted up my spear against them, but they have done these things to themselves. But now tell me, wherefore thou art fled from them, and art come unto us? For thou art come for safeguard. Be of good comfort, thou shalt live this night and hereafter. For none shall hurt thee, but entreat thee well, as they do the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar my lord. Then Judah said unto him, Receive the words of thy servant, and suffer thy handmaid to speak in thy presence, and I will declare no lie to my lord this night. And if thou wilt follow the words of thine handmaid, Yah will bring the thing perfectly to pass by thee. My lord shall not fail of his purposes. As Nebuchadnezzar, king of all the earth, liveth, and as his power liveth, who hath sent thee for the upholding of every living thing. For not only men shall serve him by thee, but also the beasts of the field, and the cattle, and the fowls of the air, shall live by the power under Nebuchadnezzar and all his house. For we have heard of thy wisdom and thy policies, and it is reported in all the earth that thou only art excellent in all the kingdom, and mighty in knowledge, and wonderful in feat of war. Now as concerning the matter which Achior did speak in thy counsel, we have heard his words. For the men of Bethulia saved him, and declared unto them all that he had spoken unto thee. Therefore, O Lord and Governor, respect not his words, but lay it upon thy heart, for it is true. For our nation shall not be punished, neither can sword prevail against them, except they sin against their Yah. And now that my Lord be not defeated and frustrate of his purpose, even death is now fallen upon them, and their sin hath overtaken them, wherewith they will provoke their Yah to anger whensoever they shall do that which is not fit to be done. For their victuals fail them, and all their water is scant, and they have determined to lay hands upon their cattle, and purpose to consume all those things that Yah hath forbidden them to eat by his laws. Wherefore I thine handmaid, knowing all this, am fled from their presence, and Yah hath sent me to work things with thee, whereat all the earth shall be astonished, and whosoever shall hear it. For thy servant is religious, and serveth the Yah of heaven day and night. Now therefore, my Lord, I will remain with thee, and thy servant will go out by night into the valley, and I will pray unto Yah, and he will tell me when they have committed their sin, and I will come and shew it unto thee. Then thou shalt go forth with all thine army, and there shall be none of them that shall resist thee. And I will lead thee through the midst of Judea, until thou come before Jerusalem. And I will set thy throne in the midst thereof, and thou shalt drive them as sheep that have no shepherd, and a dog shall not so much open his mouth at thee. For these things were told me according to my foreknowledge, and they were declared unto me, and I am sent to tell thee. Then her words pleased Holofernes and all his servants, and they marveled at her wisdom, and said, There is not such a woman from one end of the earth to the other, both of beauty of face and wisdom of words. Likewise Holofernes said unto her, God hath done well to send thee before the people, that strength might be in our hands, and destruction upon them that lightly regard my Lord. And now thou art both beauty in thy countenance, and witty in thy words. Surely if thou do as thou hast spoken, thy God shall be my God, and thou shalt dwell in the house of King Nebuchadnezzar, and shalt be renowned through the whole earth. Then he commanded to bring her in where his plate was set, and bade that they should prepare for her of his own meats, and that she should drink of his wine. And Judith said, I will not eat thereof, lest there be an offense. but provision shall be made for me of the things that I have brought. Then Holofernes said unto her, If thy provision should fail, how shall we give thee the like? For there be none with us of thy nation. Then said Judith unto him, As thy soul liveth, my lord, thy handmaid shall not spend those things that I have, before the Lord work by my hand the things that he hath determined. Then the servants of Holofernes brought her into the tent, and she slept till midnight. And she arose when it was toward the morning watch, and sent to Holofernes, saying, Let my lord now command that thy handmaid may go forth unto prayer. Then Holofernes commanded his guard that they should not stay her. Thus she abode in the camp 3 days, and went out into the night into the valley of Bethulia, and washed herself in the fountain of water by the camp. And when she came out, she besought the Lord Yah of Israel to direct her way to the raising up of the children of her people. So she came in clean, and remained in the tent until she did eat her meat at evening. And in the 4th day Holofernes made a feast to his own servants only, and called none of the officers to the banquet. Then said he to Bogus the eunuch, who had charge over all that he had, Go now and persuade this Hebrew woman, which is with thee, that she should come unto us, and eat and drink with us. For lo, it would be a shame for our person if we shall let such a woman go, not having had her company. For if we draw her not unto us, she will laugh us to scorn. Then went Bogus from the presence of Holofernes, and came unto her, and said, Let not this fair damsel fear to come to my lord, and to be honored in his presence, and drink wine, and be merry with us, and be made this day as one of the daughters of the Assyrians, which serve in the house of Nebuchadnezzar. Then said Judith unto him, Who am I now, that I should gainsay my lord? Surely whatsoever pleaseth him I will do speedily, and it shall be my joy unto the day of my death. So she arose, and decked herself with her apparel, and all her woman's attire. And her maid went and laid soft skins on the ground for her over against Holofernes, which she had received of Boaz in her daily use, that she might sit and eat upon them. Now when Judith came in and sat down, Holofernes his heart was ravished with her, and his mind was moved, and he desired greatly her company, for he waited a time to deceive her, for the day that he had seen her. Then said Holofernes unto her, Drink now, and be merry with us. So Judith said, I will drink now, my lord, because my life is magnified in me this day more than all the days since I was born. Then she took and ate and drank before him what her maid had prepared. And Holofernes took great delight in her, and drank more wine than he had drunk at any time in one day since he was born. Now when the evening was come, his servants made haste to depart, and Bogus shut his tent without, and dismissed the waiters from the presence of his lord. And they went to their beds, for they were all weary, because the feast had been long. And Judith was left alone in the tent, and Holofernes lying alone upon his bed, for he was filled with wine. Now Judith had commanded her maid to stand without her bedchamber, and to wait for her, coming forth as she did daily. For she said she would go forth to her prayers, and she spake to Bogus according to the same purpose. So all went forth, and none was left in the bedchamber, neither little nor great. Then Judith, standing by his bed, said in her heart, O Lord Yah of all power, look at this present upon the works of my hands for exaltation of Jerusalem. For now is the time to help thy inheritance, and to execute thine enterprises to the destruction of the enemies which are risen against us. Then she came to the pillar of the bed, which was at Holofernes' head, and took down his function from thence, and approached his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head, and said, Strengthen me, O Lord Yah of Israel, this day. And she smote twice upon his neck with all her might, and she took away his head from him. Aww. Shalom, Israel. That concludes this movie. to know what happens next, you're going to have to read your Bible, okay? I wanted to make this lesson because our sisters need that strength in these last days. Another part of being a pillar of rest is being tough. Yes, the scriptures say we must be meek, loving, and gentle, but Most High is a man of war, okay? And you his kids, so we got to be some type of tough. But also the scriptures does say that there will be lots of widows in these last days. So being a pillar of rest, if our husband gets killed or locked up, they need to be confident that we'll be able to hold it down by ourselves while they're in prison. Or who knows, maybe the Most High will use some of you in the day of his anger to be cutting off these heathens' head again.